The howls of alien laughter battered Johnny's ears as he stood rigidly before the Galactic Council, his face burning with humiliation, while the extraterrestrial delegates mocked humanity's pitiful, water-based bodies. But little did they know humans' genetically engineered immunity to water would soon have Johnny wiping the smug smiles right off their scaly faces. Johnny Roberts, an average 25-year-old, had the unfortunate duty of representing the first human embassy to the Draconis homeworld. The Draconis, while technologically advanced, were a physically fragile species, their biology fatally incompatible with even trace amounts of water. Most Draconis, like the sneering ambassador Raxor, looked down on humans as primitive, backwards beings, too weak and inferior to ever amount to anything on a galactic scale. "Humans are nothing but cosmic jokes," Raxor crowed, his forked tongue flicking between razor-sharp teeth. "Their water-based bodies could never withstand the rigors of space. One dip in the oceans covering most habitable worlds, and they'd melt like sugar." The rest of the council erupted into fresh gales of cruel laughter. Johnny's fingers curled into fists at his side, his jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. If these arrogant aliens only knew the truth, that humans had been secretly bioengineered to have complete and total immunity to water in any environment. It was humanity's trump card, the key to successfully colonizing 1,000 lush new worlds and establishing a powerful interstellar presence. At that moment, light years away, Earth's top leaders were gathered in a classified meeting. The topic? The tense diplomatic situation with the Draconis and other aggressive alien races who would like nothing more than to see humanity fail. "We must keep our water immunity completely secret," the Secretary of Defense insisted, "until we've expanded far enough in secret to mount a serious defense against any alien threats. The Draconis can never find out, not yet." "I agree," the President replied grimly. "We need more time. Our covert colonization program is already underway, with bases being constructed on a dozen oceanic worlds as we speak to build up our military forces. But for now, we must avoid all confrontation. Send orders for the embassy to placate the council no matter what. The long game is all that matters." Far away on Draconis, Johnny received the orders with gritted teeth and a stony face. Swallowing his pride, he knew they were right. Let the aliens laugh and mock them as weaklings, because in the end, it would be humanity who would rise triumphant to the stars, ready to wipe those arrogant grins away when the time was right. Johnny vowed to do whatever it took to ensure humanity's ultimate ascension and victory. Johnny forced a polite smile onto his face as he mingled among the Draconis delegates at the diplomatic reception. He sipped a viscous green liquid from a crystalline glass, trying not to gag at the putrid taste. Around him, the aliens chattered and laughed, their reptilian eyes glinting with disdain whenever they glanced his way. Ambassador Raxor sidled up to Johnny, his scales gleaming under the iridescent lights. "Ah, the human representative," Raxor said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I was just telling the others about our latest space exploration mission. We've discovered a planet with vast oceans, ripe for Draconis colonization." Johnny feigned interest. "Is that so? Congratulations on your discovery." Raxor's lips curled into a sneer. "Yes, it's a pity your kind will never be able to visit such a world. The oceans would dissolve your pitiful water-based bodies in seconds." He chuckled, a rasping sound that grated on Johnny's nerves. Johnny gritted his teeth behind his diplomatic smile. "That is unfortunate," he said, trying to keep the sarcasm from his voice. Inwardly, he was elated. A planet with vast oceans? It sounded like the perfect place for human colonization. Far from the glittering reception halls, deep in the heart of Earth's classified military command center, the United Earth government's covert colonial administration was already setting their plans in motion. A sleek, stealth-equipped ship was being loaded with supplies and equipment, its hull shimmering with advanced cloaking technology. Colonel Sarah Thompson, head of the colonial administration, stood before a group of 100 genetically enhanced colonists, each one selected for their exceptional skills and physical adaptations. "Your mission is of the utmost importance," she said, her voice ringing with authority. You will establish a secret base on this ocean planet and secure a foothold for human colonization. The Draconis cannot know of our presence. The colonists nodded, their eyes gleaming with purpose. They boarded the ship, settling into their cryopods for the long journey ahead. As the stealth ship slipped out of Earth's orbit and vanished into the inky void of space, Johnny continued to play his role at the diplomatic reception. He listened attentively as Raxer droned on about the Draconis' grand plans for the ocean planet, fighting the urge to roll his eyes. Days later, the human stealth ship glided into orbit around the oceanic world, its cloaking device rendering it invisible to any watching sensors. The colonists disembarked, marveling at the endless expanse of blue stretching out before them. With practiced efficiency, they began construction of their underground base, using advanced Earth technology to burrow deep beneath the planet's surface. Robotic drones ferried supplies and equipment from the ship, while the colonists worked tirelessly to build their new home. Back on the Draconis homeworld, Raxer stood before the Galactic Council, his chest puffed out with pride. I am pleased to announce that the ocean planet has been officially annexed as a Draconis territory, he declared, to a round of applause from the other delegates. Johnny raised his hand, putting on an air of concern. Will humans be permitted to visit this planet for scientific research purposes? He asked innocently. Raxer threw back his head and laughed, a harsh, grating sound. Humans? Set foot on this planet? Never. The oceans would be fatal to your kind. Your delicate bodies would dissolve like sugar in water. Johnny nodded, keeping his face carefully neutral. I understand. Thank you for clarifying. Inside, he was smirking at the irony of Raxer's words. If only the arrogant alien knew the truth. On the ocean planet, the human colonists put the finishing touches on their underwater base. It was a marvel of engineering, a self-sustaining habitat complete with oxygen generators, hydroponic farms, and state-of-the-art recycling systems. They sent an encrypted transmission back to Earth. Base operational. Planet rich in resources. Colonization proceeding as planned. The United Earth government received the message with elation, tempered by caution. Excellent work, Colonel Thompson replied. But remember, expand slowly. We cannot risk detection by the Draconis. As the covert colonization of the ocean planet continued, Johnny maintained his facade on the galactic stage. He endured the mocking laughter and patronizing comments from Raxer and the other delegates, secure in the knowledge that humanity was quietly building its strength. One day, when the time was right, the Draconis and the rest of the galaxy would learn the truth about humanity's power. For now, Johnny smiled and nodded, playing the role of the weak and naive human, biding his time until Earth was ready to claim its rightful place among the stars. As the cycles of Draconis Prime's twin suns marked the passage of months, Johnny Roberts settled into a rhythm of diplomatic duties and covert operations. Each day, he attended councils, receptions, and meetings, all while secretly gathering intelligence to relay back to Earth. In the depths of an alien ocean light years away, Atlantis Base thrived. Stealthed orbital transports slipped through the void, ferrying fresh colonists and vital supplies. The base population swelled past 1,000 souls, each driven by the mission to secure humanity's future among the stars. Deep beneath the waves, construction began on massive underwater factories. Human ingenuity adapted Earth designs to the crushing pressures of the alien sea. Slowly but steadily, assembly lines took shape, ready to produce the ships and weapons that would defend humanity's new frontier. On Draconis Prime, Johnny found himself cornered by Ambassador Raxer at yet another diplomatic function. The alien's scales gleamed with smug satisfaction as he spoke. Ah, human, I have wonderful news about our ocean world, Raxer proclaimed. Our colonization efforts proceed at an unprecedented pace. Soon, we will fully claim that pristine planet for the glory of the Draconis Empire. Johnny fought to keep his expression neutral. Is that so, Ambassador? How impressive. Raxer's forked tongue flicked out in a gesture of superiority. Indeed, We've even chosen a name befitting its status as the jewel of our expanding territories, New Draconis. Johnny allowed his shoulders to slump, feigning dejection. New Draconis, how fitting. Inwardly, he thrilled at the sheer audacity of the situation. If only Raxer knew of the vast human colony operating right under his snout. Far from the pomp and pageantry of the Draconis capital, a small fleet of unmarked human ships slipped through the stars. Their mission, to make contact with a previously unknown alien species, the Zyraxians. The diplomatic team studied their briefings intently. Intelligence suggested the Zyraxians were water dwellers like humanity, with a fierce independent streak and a healthy distrust of Draconis expansionism. It was a combination Earth's leaders hoped to leverage. First contact occurred in a neutral system, far from prying eyes. The human envoy, a seasoned diplomat named Elena Reeves, stood before the assembled Zyraxian leadership. Their bodies rippled with bioluminescence, conveying curiosity and wariness in equal measure. "Greetings, noble Zyraxians," Elena began. "We come in peace, and with a proposal. Our races share much in common, not least our mutual wariness of Draconis aggression. We believe an alliance between our peoples could ensure the freedom of water-dwelling species across the galaxy." The Zyraxian eldest, a being of swirling blues and greens, pulsed with interest. "You speak boldly, humans. Yet how can your kind hope to stand against the Draconis when water is poison to you both?" Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Ah, but there lies the beauty of our proposal. You see, humanity's greatest strength is also our best-kept secret." With a flourish, she plunged her hand into a nearby aquarium, letting the water flow between her fingers. The Zyraxian council flashed with shock and amazement. "Impossible!" the eldest exclaimed. "Not impossible," Elena corrected. "Simply unexpected. We've kept this ability hidden, allowing the Draconis to underestimate us. But with your help, we can turn the tables." The negotiations lasted for days, but in the end, the Zyraxians agreed. A covert alliance was formed, built on shared goals and mutual respect. True to their word, the Zyraxians began sharing their advanced faster-than-light drive technology. Human scientists pored over the schematics, marveling at the possibilities. With this breakthrough, the stars themselves were within humanity's reach. Back on Draconis Prime, Johnny found himself summoned to a private meeting with Ambassador Raxer. The alien's chambers were oppressively hot and dry, forcing Johnny to take frequent sips from his water flask. Raxer's eyes narrowed as he watched the human drink. "Tell me, Roberts, why does your species persist in these foolish attempts at diplomacy? Surely you must realize how inferior you are on the galactic stage." Johnny lowered his flask, allowing himself a subtle smile. "You may be surprised, Ambassador. Humanity is playing a long game. Who knows? You may one day regret underestimating us." Raxer's laughter filled the chamber, harsh and mocking. "Oh, you pitiful creature. Your delusions of grandeur are almost charming. The Draconis Empire will always reign supreme. Your feeble efforts to compete are laughable at best." Johnny simply nodded, excusing himself from the meeting. As he walked the winding corridors of the Draconis capital, he felt a surge of satisfaction. The pieces were falling into place, and the arrogant aliens suspected nothing. In a secure chamber deep beneath the Earth's surface, the United Earth government convened. Reports flowed in from Atlantis base, the Zyraxian Alliance, and a dozen other covert operations across the galaxy. For the first time since humanity reached for the stars, hope blossomed. The path to victory was long and fraught with danger, but it was there. Humanity would face many challenges in the years to come, but they would face them united, with new allies at their side and the vast oceans of the galaxy as their staging ground. The Draconis Empire's days of uncontested supremacy were numbered. They just didn't know it yet. The alliance with the Zyraxians catapulted humanity's expansion into the stars. Earth's shipyards buzzed with activity as engineers integrated the alien FTL drives into a new generation of vessels. Stealth transport slipped through the void, ferrying supplies and personnel to a growing network of hidden outposts scattered across the galaxy. On Draconis Prime, Johnny Roberts continued his charade as the bumbling human ambassador. He sat across from Raxer in the alien's opulent office, forcing himself to look impressed as the Draconis diplomat bragged about their latest accomplishments. "Our scouting missions to New Draconis have been a resounding success," Raxer boasted, his scales gleaming with pride. "The planet's oceans are even more vast and rich than we initially believed." Johnny nodded, feigning curiosity. "That sounds fascinating, Ambassador. I can only imagine the wonders your teams must have discovered." Raxer's forked tongue flicked out in a gesture of superiority. "Indeed. In fact, I've decided to extend a rare honor to you, human. You'll be joining our next diplomatic tour to New Draconis." Johnny's eyes widened in genuine surprise. "Me? But I thought humans weren't allowed on the planet due to the inhospitable conditions." "You'll remain safely aboard our ship, of course," Raxer said dismissively. "Consider it a gesture of goodwill. Perhaps witnessing the might of the Draconis Empire firsthand will help you understand your species' place in the galaxy." "I'm honored, Ambassador," Johnny replied, bowing his head to hide the glint of triumph in his eyes. Weeks later, Johnny stood on the bridge of a Draconis cruiser as it dropped out of FTL, above the shimmering blue orb of New Draconis. He watched intently as a small survey team boarded a submersible and plunged into the planet's depths. Unknown to the Draconis, a swarm of stealthed human drones from Atlantis base tracked the alien vessel's every move. Inside the base's command center, technicians pored over the incoming data, studying the submersible's capabilities and vulnerabilities. On a small island, the Draconis survey team emerged from their craft, marveling at the lush vegetation. As they collected samples, tiny infiltrator drones deployed by Atlantis base flitted among them, gathering hair, scale, and tissue samples for analysis. Back aboard the Draconis ship, Raxer clapped Johnny on the back with a scaled hand. "Magnificent, isn't it? Once our colonization efforts begin in earnest, New Draconis will become the jewel of our empire." Johnny forced a worried frown. "It certainly is impressive, Ambassador. I must admit I'm a bit envious of the Draconis Empire's expansion." Raxer laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "As you should be, human. But don't fret. Perhaps we'll allow your kind to visit a Draconis resort world someday, if you behave." As the tour concluded, Johnny shook Raxer's hand. "Thank you for this rare glimpse of such a wondrous world, Ambassador. It's more than we humans could have hoped for." Raxer's chest puffed out with pride. "Indeed it is. Consider yourself fortunate to have witnessed it at all, given your species' fragility." Johnny simply nodded, his mind racing with the possibilities that lay ahead. The Draconis' arrogance would be their downfall, and humanity would be ready to seize its destiny among the stars. Meanwhile, Earth's alliance with the Zyraxians deepened. The aquatic aliens shared advanced propulsion systems and weapons technology, accelerating humanity's military buildup. But with each passing day, the Zyraxians grew more anxious about potential conflict with the Draconis. In a secure chamber beneath the Atlantic, Zyraxian Ambassador Zilgzar addressed the United Earth government. His bioluminescent skin pulsed with urgent patterns as he spoke. "The Draconis grow bolder by the day," Zilgzar warned. "We must accelerate our preparations. If they discover the true extent of human expansion, war will be inevitable." The UEG representatives nodded grimly. Production of aquatic-adapted warships and bioengineered marines shifted into high gear. Humanity knew conflict loomed on the horizon, but they were committed to avoiding open warfare until their forces were overwhelming. For now, Johnny and his fellow diplomats would continue their delicate dance of deception, buying precious time for the coming storm. The Draconis colonial fleet hung in orbit above the shimmering blue orb of New Draconis, their scaled crews buzzing with excitement. Captain Zarthos stood on the bridge of the lead ship, his chest swelling with pride as he gazed upon the world that would soon become the jewel of the Draconis Empire. "Begin the descent sequence," Zarthos ordered. "Send out the first wave of probes to locate suitable landing zones." A flurry of activity erupted across the bridge as officers carried out his commands. Sleek, reptilian-shaped probes detached from the ships, plunging through the planet's atmosphere towards the vast oceans below. On the main view screen, Zarthos watched the probe's progress with keen interest. The devices pierced the waves, descending deeper and deeper into the murky depths. Suddenly, the feed from one probe flickered and died. "What happened?" Zarthos demanded, leaning forward in his command chair. "Unknown, sir," a technician replied, frantically working his console. "We've lost contact with Probe 1. Before Zarthos could respond, a second probe winked out of existence, then a third. Within moments, all contact with the initial wave of probes had been lost. "Impossible!" Zarthos hissed, his forked tongue flicking out in agitation. "Launch a second wave. Double the shielding." The new probes met the same fate, disappearing at precisely the same coordinates as their predecessors. A chill ran down Zarthos' spine as he realized something was very wrong. "Initiate long-range sonar scans of the target area," he ordered, his voice tight with tension. The results that appeared on the console stunned the entire bridge crew into silence, where they had expected to find nothing but open ocean. A vast underwater metropolis sprawled across the seafloor. Massive domes, shipyards, and what appeared to be military installations stretched as far as the scans could reach. "By the Emperor's scales," Zarthos whispered, "it's impossible." A priority communication from Draconis Prime cut through the shocked silence. Ambassador Raxor's face appeared on the screen, his scales flushed with fury. "Captain Zarthos, explain to me why I'm receiving reports of human activity on our colony world." Before Zarthos could stammer out a response, a new transmission cut in. The smiling face of Johnny Roberts, the human ambassador, filled the screen. "Greetings, gentlemen," Johnny said, his voice dripping with false cordiality. "I hope you don't mind, but we've decided to found our first extraterrestrial colony as well. We call it Nova Atlantis." Raxor's eyes bulged with rage. "You dare!" Johnny cut him off with a wave of his hand. "Oh, I more than dare, Ambassador. In fact, I'm declaring human sovereignty over this entire planet. Your colonial ships are to stand down immediately." As if to punctuate his words, alarms blared across the Draconis fleet. Zarthos watched in horror as sleek, predatory shapes rose from the oceans below. Human attack submarines and aquatic combat rovers. With terrifying efficiency, they swarmed the Draconis ships, deploying energy nets that left the vessels dead in space. "What is the meaning of this?" Raxor roared, his composure finally cracking. Johnny's smile never wavered. "It's quite simple, really. Humanity has evolved beyond your comprehension. Our immunity to water has given us dominion over the seas, and by extension, the vast majority of habitable worlds in this galaxy." He leaned closer to the camera, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "The age of Draconis supremacy is over, Ambassador. Humanity has reclaimed its birthright, and we intend to keep it." Raxor trembled with barely contained rage. This is an act of war." "On the contrary," Johnny replied coolly, "any attack on Nova Atlantis will be considered an act of war by Earth and its allies. I suggest you think very carefully about your next move." As the transmission cut out, Raxor found himself staring at his own reflection in the blank screen. For the first time in his long career, the Draconis ambassador felt a sensation he had never experienced before. Fear. Fear. Raxor's scaled fists slammed onto his desk, sending datapads clattering to the floor. "This is outrageous! How dare those primitive apes steal our rightful colony?" He jabbed a clawed finger at the holographic display, where the image of Nova Atlantis floated tauntingly. The vast underwater metropolis sprawled across the seafloor, a testament to human ingenuity and deception. "Mobilize the Imperial fleet immediately," Raxor barked into his comm unit. "We'll crush these insolent humans and reclaim what's ours." The Imperial fleet commander's face appeared on the screen, his expression guarded. "Ambassador, I urge caution. The humans have proven far more resourceful than we anticipated. We should... Caution? Raxor spat. While those vermin entrench themselves on our world? A new transmission cut in, and Johnny Roberts' smug face filled the screen. Now, Ambassador. Let's not do anything rash. Any hostile moves against Nova Atlantis will trigger an immediate response from our Zeraxian allies. As if on cue, proximity alarms blared throughout the Draconis fleet. Zeraxian battle groups warped into view, their sleek, aquatic-adapted ships taking up defensive positions around Nova Atlantis. The Imperial fleet commander's scales paled. Ambassador, we're outnumbered and outgunned. I recommend we stand down, for now. Raxor's teeth gritted, but he nodded curtly. Withdraw to a safe distance. This isn't over, human. Johnny's grin widened. Oh, I'm counting on it. As the Draconis ships retreated, Nova Atlantis hummed with activity. Construction drones swarmed over massive seawalls, installing energy shields and plasma turrets. Beneath the waves, defense platforms filled with sonic cannons and torpedo launchers took shape. Dr. Elena Chen, lead botanist for the Nova Atlantis project, stood in an observation dome, watching tendrils of engineered kelp unfurl across the ocean floor. Incredible, she murmured. The nutrient uptake is 300% more efficient than Earth varieties. Her assistant nodded, eyes wide. And the oxygen production is off the charts. This stuff could terraform a planet in decades instead of centuries. On the other side of the galaxy, Zeraxian shipyards buzzed with activity. Human engineers worked alongside their amphibious allies, welding hull plates and calibrating weapons systems on sleek new vessels. Admiral Zorak, a Zyraxian, ran a webbed hand along the smooth lines of a prototype ship. Beautiful, he gurgled. The perfect fusion of our people's strengths. His human counterpart, Captain Sarah Chen, nodded in agreement. Aquatic superiority and human innovation. The Draconis won't know what hit them. Back on Earth, the United Nations General Assembly erupted in cheers as the vote passed. Nova Atlantis is hereby recognized as humanity's first sovereign extrasolar territory. Massive colony ships lifted off from spaceports across the globe, carrying eager settlers and specialists to their new oceanic home. In dimly lit bars and bustling marketplaces across the galaxy, beings of all species huddled around news feeds, discussing humanity's newfound prowess. Did you hear? A tentacled Zoraxian whispered. The humans can breathe underwater now. They're colonizing ocean worlds left and right. His companion, a silicon-based lithoid, scoffed. Pah! A novelty, nothing more. But in the shadows, others watched with growing unease. The Draconis weren't the only ones who saw humanity's potential as a threat. Deep within the halls of Draconis Prime, Raxor paced before the Imperial Council. We cannot allow this human pestilence to spread. They must be stopped here and now. The Draconis Emperor leaned forward, eyes narrowing. What do you propose, Ambassador? Raxor's forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air. New weapons, tailored bioagents, something to poison their precious oceans and wipe them out for good. The Emperor nodded slowly. See it done. The humans have had their moment in the sun. Now we'll drag them back into the depths where they belong. Oblivious to the storm gathering on the horizon, the citizens of Nova Atlantis worked tirelessly to secure their hard-won world. In his office overlooking the vast underwater cityscape, Johnny Roberts gazed out at the thriving metropolis. Cityscape, Johnny Roberts turned his attention to the holographic display hovering above his desk. A swarm of blue dots representing newly constructed human Zyraxian warships spread across the galactic map, each vessel on a long-range scouting mission to locate viable ocean worlds. Status report on the Tharsia expedition, Johnny commanded. The AI assistant's voice filled the room. Landfall successful. Construction of subsurface habitats underway. Johnny nodded, satisfaction evident in his eyes. He tapped a command into his console, bringing up a live feed from Tharsia's azure depths. Human aquanauts in sleek exosuits worked alongside Xeraxian sailors, their webbed hands deftly manipulating advanced geo-terraforming equipment. The feed zoomed in on a massive underwater dome taking shape. Robotic constructors swarmed over its surface, welding seamless panels into place. Within weeks, the fledgling colony of Bethisia would be a thriving reality. A priority alert flashed across Johnny's screen. He frowned, opening the encrypted message from one of their deep-cover agents aboard a Draconis vessel. "Shit," he muttered, reading the contents. The Draconis were developing new bioweapons specifically designed to target humans. Johnny immediately opened a secure channel to Nova Atlantis's chief scientist. "Dr. Patel, we have a situation. I need your team working around the clock on countermeasures. I'm sending you everything we have on Draconis biotech." In her lab, deep beneath Nova Atlantis, Dr. Amrita Patel and her team pored over the data. Holographic projections of Draconis cellular structures floated before them as they worked tirelessly to reverse engineer protective measures. Days turned to weeks, with Dr. Patel catching only brief moments of sleep between breakthrough attempts. Finally, after countless failures, a promising result appeared on her screen. "We've done it," she whispered, her eyes wide with excitement. "A vaccine, and something more." Johnny stood in the observation deck, watching as the first batch of colonists received their inoculations. Each person was also injected with a tiny, silvery droplet, a bioengineered symbiote that would adapt and protect its host against any future Draconis toxins. As the newly protected colonists boarded their transports, Johnny's attention shifted to another screen. Long-range stealth probes sent back real-time footage of Bethesia's rapid expansion. Human Xeraxian engineering teams had successfully established power grids, atmospheric regulators, and manufacturing centers within Tharsia's deepest trenches. Back on Earth, construction crews worked feverishly to complete the massive space elevator anchored in the Pacific. The gleaming structure stretched impossibly high, its upper reaches disappearing into the clouds. Soon, it would facilitate the transit of thousands of eager colonists to humanity's new oceanic frontier. In a public address broadcast across human space, Johnny formally declared Tharsia's oceans a human protectorate. His words rang out, bold and unapologetic. "Let it be known that the waters of Tharsia now fall under the protection and stewardship of humanity and our Xeraxian allies." The reaction from Draconis Prime was swift and furious. Raxor's scaled face filled comm screens across the sector, his eyes blazing with barely contained rage. This blatant act of aggression will not stand. The Draconis Empire demands an immediate withdrawal of all human forces from Tharsia. Johnny's response was cool and measured. "Ambassador Raxor, your empty threats grow tiresome. Any attempt to blockade or interfere with human-controlled systems will be met with overwhelming force. I suggest you reconsider your position." As Raxor sputtered impotently, the first wave of human colonists from Earth arrived at Bethisia. They stared in awe at the sprawling underwater metropolis that had sprung up in mere months. Mile-high biodomes stretched toward the surface, encircled by vast aquaculture bays teeming with genetically engineered fish and kelp. On the bridge of the UES Poseidon, Admiral Sarah Chen watched as her fleet took up defensive positions around Bethisia. Sleek, hybrid warships filled with weaponry formed an impenetrable barrier against any would-be aggressors. "Status report," Chen barked. Her XO responded crisply. "All systems nominal, Admiral. Orbital defense grid is online and fully operational." Chen nodded, a grim smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Let the Draconis come," she thought. "We'll be ready." In the depths of Bethisia, human and Xeraxian scientists worked side by side in state-of-the-art laboratories. Their latest breakthrough, the success of Nova Atlantis and Bethisia, lit a fire under humanity's collective ambition. Within weeks, 5 massive colonial fleets assembled at the orbital docks above both underwater cities. Each fleet bristled with sleek, hybrid human Xeraxian warships, their hulls gleaming in the alien sunlight. At the heart of each armada floated colossal suborbital ark habitats. These marvels of engineering housed thousands of eager colonists, along with vast stores of construction materials and terraforming equipment. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Poseidon, watching as the last of the colonists boarded. "All Arcs report ready for departure," her XO announced. Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the swirling oceans below. "Signal the fleet. We make for Hydra." As one, the 5 fleets broke orbit, their engines flaring brilliantly as they set course for their designated targets: Hydra, Pacifica, Cerulean, Aquarius, and Neptunios. Weeks later, the lead fleet dropped out of hyperspace above Hydra. Captain James Rico, piloting the massive colonial ark New Atlantis, let out a low whistle as the planet's vast cobalt oceans filled the view screen. "Beautiful," he murmured, "reminds me of Earth's Pacific." His reverie was shattered by proximity alarms blaring throughout the ship. "Multiple hostiles incoming!" the tactical officer shouted. The water's surface erupted as swarms of sleek, fish-like craft rose from the depths. Green biotoxin salvos splashed against the Ark's shields, followed by the dull thud of corrosive depth charges detonating nearby. "Evasive maneuvers," Rico barked. "Get me a channel to the Xeraxian flagship." Admiral Zorak's gurgling voice filled the comm. "We're already on it, Captain. My diplomats are making contact now." For tense hours, the human fleet hung in low orbit, fending off sporadic attacks from the xenophobic Hydrians. Finally, Zorak's face appeared on the main viewer. "We've reached an accord," he burbled. "They'll allow us to land in designated zones." Rico exhaled slowly, then turned to his crew. "Take us down, nice and easy." The massive ark broke through Hydra's atmosphere, its hull creaking under the strain. As they descended, Rico could see the Hydrians' graceful cities beneath the waves, all curved lines and bioluminescent structures. "Submersion protocols engaged," the helmsman announced. Water lapped at the ark's lower decks as it eased into the alien sea. Rico felt a thrill of excitement as the ship sank deeper. "All right, people, let's build ourselves a new home." Meanwhile, on Pacifica, combat engineers from Nova Atlantis fought against howling ion storms. Lightning crackled around their armored exosuits as they deployed massive energy diffusers. Chief Engineer Lena Okafor shouted over the comms, her voice barely audible above the tempest. "Cyclone's moving off! We've got our window!" Her team sprang into action, deploying underwater drones to map the seafloor. Within hours, they'd located a suitable trench and begun laying the geothermal foundations for humanity's newest oceanic metropolis. As Okafor watched the first modular habitat sink into place, she allowed herself a grim smile. "Your move, Draconis," she muttered. That move came swiftly in the Cerulean system. A small Draconis armada dropped out of hyperspace just as the human colonial fleet arrived. On the bridge of the Draconis flagship, Admiral Siskora hissed in defiance. "We claim this world in the name of the Empire. Open fire." His ships surged forward, plasma lances cutting through the void. But the human vessels were ready. They split formation with practiced precision, their Xeraxian-designed weapons finding gaps in the Draconis shields. Siskora watched in horror as his vanguard crumbled under the onslaught. "All ships, fall back," he roared. "We can't hold against their numbers." As the battered Draconis fleet limped away, triumphant cheers echoed through the human ships. Within days, they'd secured the entire system, their arcs descending to Cerulean's vast oceans unopposed. On Draconis Prime, Ambassador Raxor paced before the Imperial Council, his scales flushed with rage. "We must crush these human vermin," he snarled. "Their watery enclaves mock our very existence." The Imperial Fleet commander shifted uncomfortably. "Ambassador, our ships aren't designed for prolonged underwater combat. We'd be at a severe disadvantage." Raxor's forked tongue flicked out in frustration. "Then what do you suggest?" A thin reptilian scientist stepped forward. "Our biochemical weapons division has made significant progress. Given time, we could develop toxins specifically tailored to human physiology." The Draconis Emperor leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Do it. Spare no expense." Light years away, on Nova Atlantis, Johnny Roberts received the classified report with a growing sense of dread. He immediately called an emergency meeting with the Xeraxian High Command. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice grave, "we have a problem." As Johnny laid out the Draconis bioweapon threat, Admiral Jorak's skin rippled with concern. "We must act swiftly," he gurgled. "Our scientists have been developing new undersea combat units." Johnny nodded. "Show me." Holographic schematics flickered to life, displaying massive armored mechs dripping with weaponry. "Human pilots, Xeraxian aquadynamic design," Zorak explained. "Perfect for rapid response to chemical attacks." "How soon can we have them deployed?" Johnny asked. "We'll need to accelerate production, but—" Zorak paused, his compound eyes gleaming. "We'll make it happen." As the meeting adjourned, Johnny stared out at the bustling underwater city. The Cold War with the Draconis was heating up, and he knew the next moves would be critical. Humanity's newfound dominion over the galaxy's oceans hung in the balance. In secret labs and hidden shipyards across human and Draconis space, the arms race intensified. Both sides pushed the boundaries of science and engineering, knowing that whoever gained the upper hand in this aquatic conflict would shape the future of the galaxy. The hidden Draconis bioweapons facility hummed with activity. In a vast, dimly lit chamber, rows of transparent tanks bubbled with an eerie, iridescent fluid. Dr. Silax, the lead scientist, peered intently at a holographic display, his forked tongue flicking in and out with excitement. "Increase nutrient flow to Tank 7, he hissed to a nearby technician. "The Leviathan strain is showing promising growth rates." Inside the tank, a mass of writhing protoplasm pulsed and expanded, tendrils of viscous material reaching out to consume the fresh nutrients. As it grew, the organism released clouds of sickly green toxins that swirled within the confined space. Across the galaxy, an encrypted transmission reached Johnny Roberts' secure terminal in Nova Atlantis. His eyes widened as he scanned the contents, cold dread settling in his stomach. Without hesitation, he activated the emergency broadcast system. "All colonial governors and Xeraxian High Command report to the war room immediately," he ordered, his voice tight with urgency. Minutes later, the chamber filled with holographic projections of human and Xeraxian leaders. Admiral Zorak's tentacles writhed with agitation as Johnny relayed the intel. "Project Leviathan," Johnny explained, bringing up schematics of the Draconis bioweapon. "A self-replicating organism designed to consume oxygen and release deadly toxins. If deployed, it could render our ocean worlds uninhabitable within days." A ripple of alarm spread through the assembled leaders. Governor Chen of Hydra spoke up, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "What's our plan of action?" Johnny nodded grimly. "We're mobilizing the entire Nova Atlantis armada. Every ship, every mech, every fighter we can muster. We need to be ready for anything." As the meeting adjourned, Nova Atlantis erupted into frenzied activity. In the massive orbital shipyards, welding torches flared as crews worked tirelessly to complete new warships. Robotic assemblers moved with precision, attaching weapon systems and hull plating. On the planet's surface, recruitment centers overflowed with volunteers. Men and women of all ages lined up, eager to defend their new aquatic homes. Training simulations ran day and night, preparing fresh recruits for undersea combat. Deep within the heart of Nova Atlantis, a team of elite operatives prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. Captain Sarah Reeves checked her equipment one last time, her face a mask of concentration. "Team, listen up," she addressed the mixed group of humans and Xeraxians. "We're infiltrating the Draconis bioweapons facility. Our objective is to retrieve data on the Leviathan organism and, if possible, sabotage their production capabilities." The team nodded, their expressions grim but determined. They boarded a stealth shuttle, its hull designed to evade Draconis sensors. Hours later, they approached the heavily guarded Draconis installation. Using advanced cloaking technology, they slipped past the outer defenses undetected. Inside, they moved silently through dimly lit corridors, stunning Draconis guards with precision shots. In the main laboratory, Captain Reeves quickly located a central data terminal. She inserted a quantum decryption device, her fingers flying over the holographic interface as she downloaded terabytes of classified information. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. "We've been made!" growled Zorak, the Zoraxian combat specialist. "Time to leave!" The team fought their way back to the shuttle, Draconis security forces in hot pursuit. As they lifted off, Captain Reeves clutched the precious data module to her chest. "Mission accomplished," she breathed. Back on Nova Atlantis, teams of scientists pored over the stolen data. Dr. Amrita Patel's eyes widened as she realized the true scope of the Leviathan threat. "This is worse than we thought," she reported to Johnny. "Even a limited release could sterilize entire ocean ecosystems within days." Johnny's mind focused. "Then we need a countermeasure, fast. What are our options?" Dr. Patel brought up a holographic model of a microscopic organism. "We're working on a Leviathan-resistant symbiote. If we can saturate our colony's ecosystems with these, it might give us a fighting chance." As the science teams worked around the clock, massive climate stators in the colony's thermospheres hummed to life. They released clouds of chemically enriched aerosols, seeding the oceans with the protective symbiotes. Throughout human-controlled space, a mass evacuation order went into effect. Civilians streamed into fortified arc bunkers, carrying what few possessions they could. Military personnel took up defensive positions, knowing the Draconis attack could come at any moment. In Nova Atlantis Central Amphitheater, Johnny Roberts addressed a sea of anxious faces. His voice echoed through the vast underwater chamber, carried to every corner of the city. "Citizens of Nova Atlantis, of all our ocean colonies," he began, his tone somber yet resolute. "We stand on the brink of war. The Draconis Empire seeks to destroy all we've built, to deny us our rightful place among the stars and seas." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But we will not yield. We will not abandon the worlds we've made our homes. Humanity has faced extinction before, and we've always found a way to survive, to thrive." A chorus of cheers erupted from the crowd. Johnny raised his hand, calling for silence. "The path ahead will be difficult, but I promise you this, we will prevail. The oceans are our birthright, and we will defend them to our last breath." As Johnny's speech concluded, the orbital shipyards above Nova Atlantis buzzed with activity. Newly constructed warships took up formation alongside seasoned veterans of previous engagements. Swarms of fighters and mechs ran through final system checks, their pilots ready for combat. On the bridge of the UES Poseidon, Admiral Sarah Chen watched as her fleet assembled. Holographic displays showed the positions of every ship, every weapon emplacement. "All systems are go, Admiral," her XO reported. "The fleet stands ready." Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the vast expanse of space before them. "Now we wait," she said softly. Across the sector, in hidden Draconis staging areas, Ambassador Raxer paced impatiently. Reports of human preparations flooded in, each one stoking his rage. "How did they know?" he snarled at his subordinates. "Who betrayed us?" A junior officer approached cautiously. "Sir, our agents report increased activity in the human colonies. They appear to be evacuating civilians and reinforcing their defenses." Raxer's scales flushed dark with anger. "Then we have no choice. We strike now, before they can further prepare." He turned to his communications officer. "Send the order. All Leviathan deployment teams are to launch immediately." As the Draconis war machine lurched into motion, an uneasy calm settled over the human ocean colonies. In reinforced bunkers and hardened command centers, soldiers and civilians alike waited with held breath for the coming storm. The Draconis stealth ships emerged from hyperspace, their sleek hulls gleaming in the starlight. Captain Sislith of the DSS Venom hissed with anticipation as he gazed at the blue orb of Nova Atlantis. "Prepare Leviathan canisters for deployment," he ordered, his forked tongue flicking out. In the vast flight bays of Nova Atlantis, alarms blared. Pilots sprinted to their aqua fighters, sealing helmets and running pre-flight checks. "This is it, people." Squadron leader Maria Chen's voice crackled over the comms. "Remember your training. We're the first line of defense." The aqua fighters streaked out of the bays, their engines glowing blue against the darkness of space. They formed up into attack formations, racing to intercept the incoming Draconis ships. Space lit up with weapons fire. Human pulse lasers clashed with Draconis plasma beams. Explosions bloomed silently in the void as ships on both sides were torn apart. "We've got leakers!" Chen shouted, her fighter rolling to avoid enemy fire. "Bioweapon carriers breaking through!" Several Draconis ships plunged into Nova Atlantis' atmosphere, trailing fire. They released their deadly cargo, Leviathan canisters tumbling end over end as they fell. In the oceans below, the canisters burst open. The protoplasmic Leviathan organism spread rapidly, consuming oxygen and leaving destruction in its wake. Fish floated belly up by the thousands. Coral reefs withered and died. Nova Atlantis' climate stators hummed to life, releasing clouds of inhibitor organisms. But it wasn't enough to stop the Leviathan's inexorable advance. In the outer habitats, panic set in. Civilians pushed and shoved, desperate to board the last evacuation subs. Children cried, separated from parents in the chaos. "Move it, people!" A colonial militia sergeant bellowed, his powered armor already showing signs of corrosion. "We can't hold this position much longer." The militia fell back, firing bursts from their sonic rifles at writhing Leviathan tendrils that probed the habitat's airlocks. One soldier screamed as his armor failed, the toxic miasma seeping in. In the central command hub, Johnny Roberts watched the evacuation unfold on multiple screens. His face was a mask of sorrow and rage. "Sir," his aide said softly, "the last transports are away. It's time." Johnny nodded grimly. He keyed in the authorization code, voice heavy. "Deploy the megamines." Swarms of hover drones zipped out from launch bays, each carrying a devastating payload. They formed a ring around Nova Atlantis' doomed outer districts. Detonation in 3, 2, 1. The ocean ignited. Massive thermobaric explosions sent shockwaves through the water, vaporizing everything in their path. The Leviathan organism was obliterated, along with huge sections of the city. As the blasts subsided, Johnny Roberts stepped up to a broadcast podium. Cameras focused on his face, transmitting to every surviving human colony. "People of Earth and her colonies," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Today, we have suffered a grievous blow." He continued, outlining the devastation and losses. But as he spoke, his tone shifted from somber to defiant. "The Draconis thought to break us with this cowardly attack. They have failed. We will rebuild, we will fight back, and we will reclaim our place among the stars and seas." Across a dozen worlds, humans and their alien allies listened. They saw the fire in Johnny's eyes, felt the steel in his words, and they knew that this was just the beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.